Hello, everyone. This is Taco from TDS Taco, I should say, from the Daily Sporting. I got Ricky on here, and we're going to be talking about fantasy football running backs, 1 point PPR. And the number one thing I think everyone knows in PPR, you want to get a pass catching running back. So I got a question for you, Ricky. Last season, there was only two players who had over 100 targets last year. Can you name the two players? Now, this
Running
is
backs,
just
right?
yep,
Just
two
just
running backs.
targets.
Yep, just
Um,
targets.
100 targets.
Yes, only two of them made over 100 targets. Only two of them were over 80 targets. So,
Was it one of them Kamara?
yes, absolutely.
And
Alvin
then
Kamara.
the second one, I would say, no, Eckler?
Oh, no. Kamara was number one. I'm
Right.
just shaking,
Oh,
just
I
shaking my hair.
was thinking Eckler.
Eckler. No, well, because of the injury,
Oh,
he
that's
did
right.
not reach that plateau, although that was a good guess. It actually was J.D. McKissick from the
Really?
Washington football team. Absolutely. It's
Oh,
actually kind of crazy how valuable he was considering he was, a backup piece.
right.
He was an afterthought. He wasn't even much
No.
of a player. But when we look at scoring here, he had 110 targets, 80 catches for 589 yards. And Kamara was the typical beast that he is, 107 targets for 83
Right.
catches and 756 yards, 5 touchdowns. Now, scoring wise, obviously, there was a huge difference between the two of them. McKissick scored 191, whereas Kamara scored 377 in standard 1 point PPR. But I mean, Kamara did have 15 more rushing touchdowns and 600 more rushing yards. That's almost like a player in itself.
And
So then
and
when
and
you
you like you said, and McKissick was an afterthought, even though
right,
I remember having Gibson in the league that you have. Where I had Gibson and McKissick.
absolutely.
But McKissick definitely came through certain weeks, especially when Gibson went down. So you
Mhm.
did see the difference there. But yeah, you're right. That's a lot of targets.
How about this? Let's compare JD McKissick and Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott was the lead running back for the Dallas Cowboys. And even though the Dallas Cowboys did lose Dak Prescott, he was still there in order to, carry the load or do
Right,
whatever he wanted to do. Because one thing we can say about the Washington football team is they really didn't have a quality quarterback for most of that
right,
season at any point in time. And when you look at the point differential here, Ezekiel Elliott scored 223 points. He was, a top 5 running back taken that season. And this is 1 point PPR here. He still had 52 catches, for 338
right,
yards. He rushed for 6 touchdowns. He had 979 yards. But realistically, he only outscored JD McKissick. We're looking at what, 32 points?
yep,
It's a very close margin for JD McKissick being an afterthought and Ezekiel Elliott being a full time, prime time running back.
right.
And the
I mean, he
reason why,
did he did the bad. I mean, I can remember long periods of time where Ezekiel did nothing. I mean,
sure,
it
but
was to
JD
the
McKissick,
point. It was to the point where you don't know if you
hey,
take him
but
out or what.
exactly, but you know what? JD McKissick was the backup.
Yeah,
And I think that, that's why I think it's a fair comparison. But I also think that this goes to show the value in 1 point PPR leagues of having good pass catching running backs.
right,
They are so valuable. They're such a cheat code. These this is the new meta. If you're
right.
playing PPR, 1 point PPR, getting an elite pass catching running back is the meta. Now, let's look at the fan point breakdown so we can actually get a breakdown of who did what. Okay, Alvin Kamara finished as the number one running back, and if we see here, he had 83 catches, 5 touchdowns receiving, but he also ran for 932 yards and 16 touchdowns. In the number 2 spot, it was Dalvin Cook. And Dalvin Cook was the opposite of kind of what we said. Well, he's kind of like a hybrid because he still had 44 catches. So it's
Right.
a decent amount, 361 yards, but he rushed for 1,500 yards and 16 touchdowns, which
Right.
is, absolutely beastly.
I do think Derrick Henry is the exception for the rule. I mean, he had 333 points. As you can see, he had barely. Well, how many catches did he have?
19. He only had
19.
31 targets.
Right. So what I'm saying to you is that's why if you look at our ranking, I had Derrick Henry as number 2 behind
Yep.
McCaffrey.
If you look at um, yard wise, he had 500 more yards than Dalvin Cook,
Yep.
and the third highest rushing total was Jonathan Taylor. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? And that's almost like, 900-yard difference,
right.
not quite, but almost 900 yards between him and fourth place. That definitely is 900 yards.
Yeah.
So when you think about how valuable his rushing yards are, that's what really holds up Henry, and it's the only reason why he can be the exception to the rule is because of that sheer volume that he gets, as far as rush yards and those
And I do
huge
think
games he
this
has.
year, because of the weapons that they,
Mhm.
who getting Julio Jones now, most teams from watching it, they stacked, right? Derrick Henry was the one to stack the line, stack up. They're not going to be able to do this now. They got now two viable threats that they're really going to have to, they're not going to be able to just say, hey, let's stop Derrick Henry and let Tannehill, whatever. But they're not going to be able to do that. They can't stack the line anymore.
I mean, I do think that stacking the line has been an issue that Henry has faced throughout his career, but he's handled it like a champ.
Right.
I do worry a little bit to see how it does play out with having now a primetime guy like Julio Jones. But on the other end of that, Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, who were two pretty decent target shares in that offense, are both going to be gone. So that does open up a world of opportunity for, Julio Jones to be Julio Jones, and you
Right.
still can keep Derrick Henry at his normal levels just because Julio Jones is replacing the targets of those two other guys, and then everyone else just kind of fills in where, they would normally.
Yeah, but Julio Jones, like they weren't worried about the other two, like they're worried about now Julio Jones.
No, what I'm saying is targets. So
No,
it's
the
not
targets, right?
like Julio Jones is coming in here and taking. It's not like there's like two wide receivers that are already here. Now you're adding him in,
Right.
and then you have Henry, and it's like what's going to happen? Like if you still had Jonnu and Corey Davis, and then you add in Julio Jones, I'm looking at it like okay, maybe Henry's volume is going to go down a little bit because if he goes down a couple hundred yards, you're looking at a big difference in his points.
But yeah, but he can even catch more, maybe. I just think
I don't
that
know if he
offense,
catches more.
yeah, but I just
I
think
don't
the
mind.
offense always works in the NFL. Two prime receivers like that, and they, prime, I mean, number one
Right,
running back. That offense usually does work in the NFL.
right.
I don't, and also just the top, especially this fantasy year, we're getting an extra game. So you're talking about him having 2,000 something here, but he's getting an extra game now. Where maybe you're right, maybe they sit him, whatever. You never know, but I'm just saying he is getting an extra game where he's going to play in the season. That things could, significantly yardage wise rushing, it could go up.
Yeah, but I mean, if we look at it a per game basis, I really don't expect anything, too different from that. He's a consistent rusher who's going to put up his numbers. The question is always going to be, can he maintain his, insane volume? Because if he does, then he keeps his value. If there's a dip in his volume, then there's a dip in his value, and that's just,
Right.
how it is. But one name that we haven't seen scoring anywhere from last year is the number one guy ranked in our rankings, and that is Christian McCaffrey,
Right.
CMC. And the reason why Christian McCaffrey isn't anywhere to be seen, that's because he had a horrible season last year. He dealt with all sorts of injuries.
Yeah.
And this year he's expected to come back. From what we're hearing, there's not going to be much hold back on him. There's not going to be any restrictions on him.
Right.
He should be full good to go. Last season, if we look at it, he had 59 rushing attempts for 225 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, did you see how many people didn't have that many touchdowns? He already had 17 catches for 149 yards. If we look at him in 2019, he had the historic season where he put up 471 points, which was 100 points more than Alvin Kamara put up last season.
Last season.
Okay, he had 116 catches, so he is an elite receiver. With like, if you just had a player who had 116 catches
and 1,000
with
yards.
1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns, you're like, yo, that's not a bad season.
No, that's
But
not.
then you add 1,300 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns, and you're like he's the best of both worlds. Like this
No,
guy
I
is
think it's a
cheat code.
no-brainer. I mean, barring any injury again, if he's healthy, I expect the same trajectory what was going on at the beginning of last season before he got hurt to continue. I don't see how it will change.
Yep, and especially when you think about what that team is, how they operate, they didn't do anything to shake the mold or
Right.
to take away from him being the primary number one.
I mean,
So
you have questions about Darnold, but
yeah, but you know what? They've always been questions about the running back behind CMC, and that actually makes me feel good
Yeah.
Like if it was like you're telling me Aaron Rodgers is there, I'd be like, well, what does that mean for CMC? Is this
Right.
going to be a little? But that to Sam Darnold, I'm like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Dump offs and rushing and rushing up the
Yeah.
gut for a
High value for
touchdown.
him usage all the time.
Red zone's going to be all McCaffrey,
Right.
because we know we don't trust Sam Darnold in the red zone. Like
Right.
if you give him open field, a little more trust. Red zone, those are tight windows.
Right.
Then it's the big three: Kamara, Cook, and Henry. I
Right.
think these three guys have really set themselves up as being that next tier. And there's one player here that's not showing up that we both have ranked as well, and then I believe that's in this tier, and that's Saquon Barkley.
Right.
Ricky has Barkley ranked right above Kamara, and so do I. And this is not a knock on Kamara, who was,
No.
last season the highest point per game scorer. I think the problem with Kamara right now comes down to the question marks surrounding
Yes.
his situation, right?
My thing is with first he loses Brees, so you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback. Now is Winston's not someone that is going to throw the running back. He's just not. And then you have Hill. What's his usage? If Winston starts, Hill's going to come in and vulture TDs. So it's a big mess in New Orleans.
Yes.
As much as I believe in Kamara, I had him last year. He was amazing, but all these situations, especially losing Brees, you can't. I can't emphasize anymore.
16 touchdowns, 932 yards. Yeah. That's an easy, like he could dip by 5 touchdowns easily. Yeah. We could see. We're just not sure because the situation is so fluid right now. So this is something that we have to come back and watch. But I think that's why you see Kamara here and Saquon Barkley. The reason why I believe that at least I have him ranked here, and probably why you have him ranked here, is just there's question marks. One, he's coming back from the injury, but now with this offense adding these extra weapons in, it's a question of how are they going to use all these weapons. Then also you hear the coach speak where they want to have him eased into this season and they don't want to basically get him hurt. So I do believe that you might see us using the Giants using Booker a little bit more than you kind of want as a fantasy roster. And that's the only reason why he's not number 2, at least in my book.
Yeah, I mean,
there's more upside than everyone here.
To me, the biggest thing is the injury. It was a serious injury. I don't even think he's practicing now yet.
He's already working out and doing.
But I don't think he's attended practice. He's doing his therapy or whatever routine to get better.
Right.
But again, it's a slow. What I'm saying is it's an injury that they're going to take slowly.
Right.
I don't see them rushing in, especially in the beginning of the season, 2-3 weeks before, maybe 4, before you start really giving him the rock as you normally would expect. Right. So that's 1, 2, 3 weeks that you could lose there, where he's not getting the volume. And not because he's bad. It's just, hey, we're going to ease him in here. I think if you take a look, like he's been hurt the last 2 seasons. He's played 15 games, I think. So I mean,
come on now. Let's. Last season he got hurt in the second game of the season. So last season was a wash. The season before that he played 15 of 17 games. He only maybe like 14 of 17 games. He had the high ankle sprain. He came back early.
Yeah,
I think a high ankle sprain for a young running back like that tends to happen. That's not an injury that I consider being injury prone. The ACL is a bit serious, but from everything that we've heard from the doctors and how we see a guy like Kevin Durant come back in the sport that's a lot more physical, I don't really question.
No, my thing is, I think you're no. My thing is, first of all, it is a big deal. He's a violent runner. He sharp cuts. He's sharp cuts.
He makes some shortcuts, yes.
Very sharp cut. And that ACL that's where it affects it. Because Steve, he drops on a dime and he's gone the other way.
But he's also a very powerful runner where he could run through guys. And
but again, that's what I'm saying. He's a violent runner all around. His legs are most running back, but his more than anything are the source of power. Everything like that's where all the strength
that's
comes
more from his thighs.
Yeah. But overall, that's what I'm saying. It's a serious injury for him because of the type of runner that I've seen him be. That's why. So that's what I'm a little worried. I have to make sure for me, and it's still a 4th round is a steal to me for Barkley. Yeah. He could be easily honestly, the first or second best running back.
If he's fully healthy, he's the only one that can compete with Christian McCaffrey as being the number one running back in this
That's what I'm
league.
saying. If you get him in the fourth or fifth pick, you very possibly got the number one player in the
Right.
in
Right.
the
Absolutely. And Cook and Henry are really here because of what they've done over the last couple of
yes,
seasons as being consistent producers who offer you that big play, who can carry your team. Kamara's here because of the question marks that we're
right,
saying with his situation, and Barkley's here because of the injury.
right.
I don't think you can change these first five.
No, I don't
These
think.
first five
I think if
are
you're the
set.
first five, you're going to get one of those.
McCaffrey's in a tier of his own. The
Right,
next four are in their tier in a toss up, depending on your risk tolerance and what you're looking for.
right.
After that, I think we come into another tier where we have three players that we ranked into very similar categories: Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, and Ezekiel Elliott. Jonathan Taylor, we both have ranked as the number 7 running back.
Yeah,
I think that we can both speak to his upside as being tremendous. He's a young player last season who we were talking about how we were, the stock on him was rising. Is
right.
it justifiable? But then Marlon Mack went out and he performed, very well.
Yeah,
And I think that with that offense and how everything is set up, he was last year when we look at just the scoring wise, he was, number 6.
yeah.
And that was his rookie season. He had
That's what I'm saying. I'm with you on that. That because I drafted him last year. So as soon as Mac went down, it was it. He took over. I mean, he had
Yep.
his moments where he had some bad games,
Yep.
but overall for a rookie, he did amazing. He was very
Yep.
more consistent than not consistent. He was more. You knew what you were going to get from him. Definitely double-digit points. You knew you were going to get something from him. He usually didn't throw a dud. He
Yep.
did it once in a while.
And I think one of the big things with Jonathan Taylor that really makes you feel good is last year was his rookie season. He
Yeah.
didn't seem to really face any adversity that he couldn't overcome, which makes me believe that going into this season he could be so much better. Because last season, let's face it, between COVID and all the other situations that were going on throughout the season, I think that just that year of experience can help him elevate his game without anything being added.
And also, not just to say, but Hines came into the season and he played well. So it wasn't like he didn't have competition either. Hines played well when he was used. I think even at one point when Jonathan Taylor had, I think maybe 1 or 2 games where he didn't do well, Hines took over the next. So at some point, I know I got scared. I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, is he going to lose a starting job? But a lot of people said Frank Reich kind of just talked to him and said, hey, it was, I think, one game when he told him, hey, Hines started, but he's like, hey, we need you. This is just it's a wake-up call. We need you to be here all the time. And I think right after that, he kind of really took over and was a starting running back. But again, he had some adversity. He had some competition, and he still went through that. I was impressed by him a lot as well.
Yep. And like we see here with Hines, he had 482 receiving yards and 63 receptions last year. So he definitely got work, and he was the third most I want to say targeted. Yeah, he was the third most targeted running back in the NFL last season. So he definitely carved out a role. And if you're a Jonathan Taylor roster, you're hoping that they start to use Taylor a little bit how they use Hines.
Yeah.
Get some of those extra catches. So that definitely just shows the opportunity that Taylor has that's why so many people are into him. On top of that, Ezekiel Elliott, he's someone that, again, last season he didn't have Dak Prescott for the second half of the season. He showed glimpses of, like Ricky was saying, you don't know if you should start him or not.
Yeah.
It became a scary situation. But we're hoping with Dak Prescott coming back, it does give him the opportunity and gives him some more running lanes. He comes back healthy and revitalized. I say that he's, again, you can go up or down this court. I prefer Eckler over Elliott, and I prefer Taylor over Elliott because of him being the young kid. But Elliott is in a high-powered offense. So you should expect a lot from these Cowboys. Eckler, one of the big things about Eckler that we want to talk about because he was hurt most of the season last year, is he's a really great pass catcher. So everything that we talked about McCaffrey and we talked about Kamara and J.D. McKissick and how valuable these pass catchers are, that's the same thing with Austin Eckler. And if we could just bring up Eckler's numbers really quick for you guys, just so we can give you some reference. In 2020, he had 65 targets for 54 catches. But in the season before that, in 2019, you see he put up 309 points. He had 108 targets for 92 receptions and 993 yards. I do, and that was with Melvin Gordon still being on the team that season. So I do fully expect that he's going to have an opportunity this year to be a big time player. And in 1 point PPR leagues, I absolutely love him. I think he's a steal. I think he fits right into this little category, this little pocket that we have here.
Yeah.
Um, and then, we have our next little pocket, and that's Aaron Jones, Chubb, and Mixon. These are three guys that we kind of have all ranked within similar places. And the reason why is because they've all shown the ability to break big plays, score big points, and help fantasy players win championships. Me and Ricky both have had Aaron Jones on
Yeah.
championship winning teams, so we both know how good they could be. But Ricky, which one of these guys interests you the most going into the season between these three guys?
So it's Aaron Jones, and and even maybe I'm even underrating him, or we are even at this low. I mean, if you look at Aaron Jones, the thing we have questions because is Aaron Rodgers going to be there, right? But pull up his stats from last year.
Yep.
What was his catching?
Last season, he had 47 receptions for 355 yards. He had 1,100 yards rushing with 9 touchdowns. And Jamal Williams is gone from the backfield
Yes.
over there in Green Bay.
So again, depending on Aaron Rodgers, really, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, I think that number for receptions and yards could go up.
Yep.
I think he's highly underrated as a running back who could catch. He's a great catcher. Aaron Rodgers loves him coming out the backfield and having him there. So I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest question is Aaron Rodgers going to be there? That's my interest because if Aaron Rodgers is there, Aaron Jones will get more receptions, more yardage. I think he's someone that we are underrated. Even me, even at the way you have him, I have him. He could be a top 6-5 running back.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. Aaron Jones. If we look at where the rankings are with what we have,
right,
I do have him ranked above this tier, right underneath Elliott.
Right.
And the only reason why I do have him there is just because I'm so hesitant about Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
It's such a scary situation. In my heart of hearts, I don't think that he's going to stay there. And if Aaron Rodgers gets traded, I don't really think I can move Aaron Jones from the spot. Like this is as low as Aaron Jones gets for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
because I think with any quarterback they put, with their backup,
we're grading him at his floor.
Yeah, that we're grading him at his floor, but he has potential to go 5. The ceiling is higher.
Yes,
for him.
like his ceiling would put him in that range of Eckler, Taylor, Kamara. If you're telling me Aaron Rodgers is back for a full season, then they're giving it a go.
Right. I mean, I know I have Chubb higher than you do, a couple of spots.
Yep.
I just think he's the main guy, even with Hunt there. I know Hunt did really well. If you saw the first half, the problem is as soon as Hunt came back, you saw the dips in numbers with Chubb. So that should be kind of worrisome. But I do believe he's more what the first half was than what the second half was.
Yep.
And even in the second half, Hunt did not get the volume that Chubb and me. They trusted him in the crucial situations in the red zone, but Hunt did cut into that once he came back. I mean, I'll give you that, but I do. That's why I kind of have Chubb above Aaron Jones, just because I believe he's carved himself out to be like the main number one guy, and Hunt being just right behind him.
And for everything you said, that's the reason why I do have him lower than all the other guys.
Right.
Joe Mixon is someone who he can be a little hit or miss with that Bengals offensive line, but when he does hit, he hits big. I think that he's set up with no Giovanni Bernard being there this season. He's going to have more of an opportunity to be in the pass catching role. I think he showed off some good abilities in making plays, and I'm very bullish on a Joe Mixon. But I do have to see him stay healthy and perform for a whole season. That's the only reason why he's not higher. Because Joe Mixon last season, as we saw, he had 21 receptions for 138 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 428 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. The season before that, he had started to show glimpses, but didn't fully deliver. They had a lot of Giovanni Bernard over there at that time. He was really factored in there and really lowered his passing upside. So when you look at just his numbers, they look okay. They're not great. They're nothing special. No. But when you look at his talent and when you look at the potential is for it, I'm definitely a lot higher on Mixon than I am a Chubb.
Gotcha.
But again, it's very much like what Ricky said as well. Like if Hunt goes down, Chubb immediately vaults himself up to where
Right.
you're talking about him as in the top 10. But if not, and you have Hunt and you have OBJ, it's kind of scary. So, this is just depending on your risk tolerance, which
Right.
situation you like better, which coaching staff you think is going to be better. That comes down to what your research is and what you are feeling personally, because that's a risk tolerance thing. There's going to be warts on that one, but you got to see
Yeah.
which one you can live with best. Now, the next group, I think it works out again, where we have a little little tier here. So this is going to be Akers, Gibson, Harris, and Swift. That's kind of like our next tier.
Right.
It's to do with a lot of running backs. So we're talking about first year running backs or second year running backs
Right.
in this little tier. Antonio Gibson, I totally agree with you on him being an absolute stud. And I'll let you talk a little bit about him because I know you had him last season.
Yeah, no, I think he showed what you could do. And again, this is with you having McKissick, right? He became the number one running back. Again, I think he showed last year what he could do. Point wise, what did he put up?
I'm pulling it up for you right now. And one good thing, or one big thing that we can note here about Antonio Gibson is that he's a month. He like last season he had 36 catches for 247 yards. We saw that Naheem Hines, not Naheem Hines, but JD McKissick was
Yeah.
getting all the catches and taking so much work there. Scoring wise, they were close. They were within 11 points with each other. But the reason why we have Gibson ranked so much higher is that one, he showed a ton of upside when he played.
When
And
he
two,
played.
he's going to be involved a lot more in the passing game. They already said it. They want to get him more involved in that aspect of it. So I think that offers him tremendous upside.
And I also think, and I don't want to underestimate, it's a new coach, Rivera.
No, Rivera was there last season.
Oh yeah, he was there last year. No, you're right. But what
It's
I'm
the new
saying
quarterback.
is, right, yes. But what I think also Rivera's going to do more.
Mhm.
I think you're going to. As you see, Rivera's not afraid to give volume to his running backs. He did it with CMC, right? He let him touch all the time. I think there's even maybe because he was a rookie last year, but I think there's even more attempt to have volume for Gibson.
I definitely agree with you. And I think that also you may just see JD McKissick's numbers go down as a result of Gibson getting that volume, because
Yes.
there is some, like, I do expect Logan Thomas to be interesting this season. They did draft a wide receiver. They did go out and sign, I believe they signed Adam Humphries, and then you're looking at they also signed Curtis Samuel. So now there's a bunch more weapons for them to be using on the outside. So that could affect some of the passing numbers that we see here, and maybe you don't see JD McKissick perform as well as he did last year, and there's going to be somebody else that plays to that level.
Right.
But another running back that we had ranked over there was DeAndre Swift.
Right.
Now, DeAndre Swift, I don't think he was, by any stretch of the imagination, someone that people really enjoyed in the first half of the season, but in the second half of the season, he really took off and started to really show that potential with some big games and just with some good scoring. So I definitely like Swift this season. They haven't signed any kind of backups or anyone like that that's going to really take away from his opportunities this year, because I know they were talking to guys like Todd Gurley and some other guys. And if you're a DeAndre Swift truther, you don't want to see some of these guys there because you want him to get the opportunity to get the bulk carries and bulk touches.
I think you're right. What I noticed is that they just haven't signed anyone significantly to say, oh, this is going to be a duo, or this is going to cut into his volume. No, I think you saw what he did towards last year. I think the beginning of it was rookie. He wasn't getting the ball. They were playing horribly.
Yep.
He got hurt, I think, right?
Yep. And I worry about his durability a little bit.
Yeah.
That is something that does scare me with him. But his upside, if he is the only back there and they do throw to him, puts him, like, I would say, like right here. So his upside for Swift, if everything continues to break this way where there is nobody else that comes in there, he's going to be the primary back. He's going to be used in pass catching situations. He's going to get goal line work. That's going to have to move his value up because he's going to have a lot less people to contend with than some of the other guys. And I think that, and he'll have a lot more certainty in that offense. Now, the only problem is they might be behind so much that he, but then he might get the pass catches. So it's all relative. It'll be interesting to see. One rookie that I'm very high on, and I try to hold him back, but more and more people that I talk to just can't stop gushing about Najee Harris.
Najee Harris.
Najee Harris is going to be going to the Steelers. It's like a match made in heaven. He's
Right.
a tough runner. He can actually catch the ball. He's not the most explosive, but he's able to get you those singles and doubles that you want and that you need as a running back.
I think he's going to be a cowbell. Just
Yeah.
how Tomlin loves using his runners like that.
Yeah.
He's the next cowbell. There's no Connor there.
I'll be honest though, if he really is like we again have to see how he looks in the preseason.
Yeah.
If he is a real cowbell, he has to come up here. You have to start thinking about him.
And the only reason I say he's going to be a cowbell, the thing is, we have to see how he's going to perform.
Yeah,
because he could be a cowbell. Connor's a cowbell. He was getting volume, but he was getting nothing done. Right. Again, Tomlin used Connor as a cowbell. Le'Veon Bell as a cowbell.
Yep.
I expect the same thing that's going to happen here. The only problem is that you could see what happened last year. They had no offense. So you have questions about that. How good is Pittsburgh really going to be?
Well,
some people don't have them making the playoffs.
Offense at the beginning of the season was really good. I think the biggest issue was that they didn't have a running game towards the end of the stretch, which then made Ben have to play some catch up because he had to make all these throws and he made some bad throws. But wide receiver wise, they're stacked. You have Deontay Johnson, you have Claypool, you have Juju Smith-Schuster. Now you're adding in a Najee Harris. You got Big Ben there. I'm expecting a lot from the Steelers offense, much improved this year. I fully expect them to be. Then our next little tier here that we have Chris Carson, Sanders, and CEH. I think Sanders, it's just really a situation where we want to see him stay healthy. We want to see him put up consistent numbers. He has a ton of upside. He can get some catches, but the biggest question with him is health. Same thing with Carson. Carson is a consistent player, but he does have his injuries. So every week you're sometimes wondering, is he going to be out? Is he going to play? And then he's not much of a pass catcher, so he gets a lot of his work done strictly through the running game on the ground. So
they did sign them to a 2-year contract,
right?
So that shows a little something like, hey, we believe in this guy. This is our guy, right?
Right, but also I think that with the way the NFL is set up, 2-year contract for a running back like this, he could be a backup by the middle of the season, cut next season.
That is true.
But one thing that we can note points wise, if we look at it, he scored less than J.D. McKissic, and I like using J.D. McKissic as a buoy because it shows you how valuable pass catching is in PPR settings for running backs. That's why I say this is the meta. You want to find guys like this that are going to be the pass catching option on a team. He doesn't have to necessarily be the number one option on a team, but we've seen the Hakeem Himes, we see J.D. McKissic, we've seen a bunch of guys like that are on this list in the top 25 running backs for the whole season. Just because they're able to get these consistent catches. And in order to win a league, you have to have consistent points coming into your team. So that's definitely
we also say one catch is 1 point, 6 catches is a touchdown.
Yep.
Just like that, you could get 10 points easily.
Six catches for 60 yards is just like you got 2 touchdowns. That's 12 points.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
And we're not counting any little running yards that they get.
Yep. So that's why it's such a big thing. CEH, he's another one of these guys where if he does what he's supposed to do in his post-hype season, he could be an absolute steal. We know that right now he is pretty much set up to be the number one running back on the Kansas City Chiefs. We know the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be a dynamic offense. We know the Kansas City Chiefs added multiple offensive linemen in the offseason to build up probably one of the best offensive lines in the game.
Well, that's kind of where I have to see, because I agree with you with CHE. He could go higher, right? Mm-hmm. He could be, but my only thing is, how is that line going to be, right? But it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about
that. But my thing is this: it's not so much at the line. They can have a perfect line. That doesn't mean they're going to run the ball.
Right.
And so if they have the same offense scheme like they did last year, CHE is going to be in the same type of situation.
See, the reason why I think that was set up though is because he wasn't delivering. Because
you might be right, but still,
the Chiefs do like to run. The Chiefs aren't a team yes, they throw the ball. Yes, they're a big play offense, but Andy Reid does like to run. We've seen him with Brian Westbrook. We've seen him with Thomas Davis. I don't know if he had Thomas Davis, but he's consistently had running backs that he's produced. Like even Damian Williams, when we were looking in that Super Bowl, he was a big player for that team, from even just catching passes out of the running back to making big plays with the running back, because it helps Mahomes out so much. And Mahomes
I think you're right to a certain point. I think you're right to a certain point. Andy has, but I don't think Andy's had something like this before, where it's going to be pass option first. He's going to be looking at.
Like even if it is pass option first, if Clyde can establish himself in the passing game, then then he has to be going higher because the biggest question, the only reason why CEH is not higher on my list is I don't trust him in goal line yet. And I need to see what happens in preseason. I need to see how it looks. But if he's getting goal line, I'm moving CEH up from here, and CEH is now coming like right in here.
I
If
really
he's
need to see
looking good
more.
goal
To
line,
me, the more is the offense. What is it going to run? Like I said, if it's anything similar like last year, he's going to be in the same situation.
to me, it's he didn't get those short line situations, short yardage situations. He didn't do great in the goal line. He didn't make some of those big plays. He was a rookie. It was a learning curve. He has the upside and the potential.
He has a
Everyone
higher
last
ceiling.
season,
He has a high
everyone
ceiling.
last season had him like right around here because a bell cow, or a bell cow type for the Kansas City Chiefs is drool worthy because
I'm
he
with
could
you.
be
He has a
great.
he has a high ceiling that he could go up. It's
Mhm.
again, he could be a great steal, but
Yeah.
I'm more interested in how that offense is going to be run.
I mean, you could easily see him going above Elliott only if in the preseason we start to see him make those plays that he made in college. Because in college, he was one of the best running backs. So we do have to see how that translates
Right.
after a full offseason being able to implement and plan everything out. Now, here, things get interesting. We have, I would say, our next real tier, but it's not even because we kind of go a little bit off the tracks. I have Dobbins, Gaskins, Mike Davis, Josh Jacobs, Montgomery, and Edmonds. Whereas you have Mike Davis, Kareem Hunt, Gaskins, Jacobs, Dobbins,
Yeah.
Montgomery. I think one guy that we have differences here is Montgomery. Montgomery, I think, offers a great upside. I can easily see why Ricky has him ranked that high. My biggest question is with Tyreek Cohen coming back and how that offense is going to run once Josh Fields starts to take over and
Right.
how it works with Andy Dalton. It does scare me a little bit there. J.K. Dobbins, I think that's a situation where they have a lot of running backs on that roster.
Well, my big issue with J.K. Dobbins is the red zone. Gus Edwards is there, and
Yep.
it's Lamar Jackson, right?
Yep.
So how many really touches going to get in the red zone?
Yep.
So that's my biggest issue with Dobbins. It's too many people that could get the ball before he even gets it.
Yep.
So that's my issue there as well.
But the other thing is he can also establish himself as the lead back and then take over Gus Edwards and stuff. And now you're looking at a much better player. So because he's going to get enough work, before you get to the red zone that he's going to be like an okay play. But then if you add that in, now he doesn't make enough catches, Dobbins, to really like, he had 18 catches last season. So that does scare you a bit when you look at him. But it's just part of the territory.
I just think even if he becomes a one running back, I just he's capped at some point.
Yep. I agree. Gaskins last year we saw he was a fantastic player. When he came back, he from his injury, I know he helped a lot of people out during the fantasy playoffs. Gaskins was someone that I definitely, I was on him early. We were posting about him on Instagram.
Right.
Great play. He can get catches. He had 41 receptions for 388 yards. He was able to run inside. He had three touchdowns rushing. He had 2 touchdowns passing. He had a big week 15. So he's delivered in prime time.
Right.
I don't really see them having any other real running back options to overtake him that they signed in the offseason. So I definitely like Gaskins. But I'm hearing reports of Tua not looking that great already in preseason, throwing a bunch of interceptions, which does scare me a little bit.
My biggest thing is I have to see Tua. If he could get he'll get the ball. The guy, like you said, the reports right now is that Tua is not looking great.
Right.
They got him weapons, right? So he's set up for that.
Yep.
So it's more about Tua. How is that offense is going to run?
Yep.
And because it's going to affect Gaskins if they're from behind and they're throwing the ball all the time.
Yep.
Even though he does get catches, he gets his targets.
Yep. Now, the next one of the next players that we have up here is Josh Jacobs, who we have relatively ranked low by most comparisons. He had a
Yeah.
pretty good season last year. He put up over 1,000 yards rushing. He had 12 touchdowns. He had 33 receptions for 231 yards. I think the biggest reason why he's ranked this low is that they signed another guy, which was ranked right here, in Kenyon Drake.
Kevin Drake. I mean, yeah.
Kenyon Drake was signed with the Las Vegas Raiders, and now all of a sudden you're looking at a situation where both these guys can run at the goal line. They're talking about they want to use Drake more in the passing game, which to me is a little weird because I didn't even see the what is it, Arizona Cardinals use him in that way. So it's something that I really haven't seen Drake do much throughout his career, even when he was in Miami. So it'll be interesting what the Vegas Raiders do with his role. But that puts me in flux with Josh Jacobs and with him because I don't really know what's going on. I don't know how they plan on using that roster. So that's why I have Josh Jacobs.
It's weird how it seems like Oakland doesn't fully like him or trust him.
And they wasted a first round pick.
Yeah, that's what this is weird to me because Drake is again to me in another position where he was last year, right? Chase Edmonds there. We all thought he was going to be he ended up, getting.
Well, Drake was scheduled to be the big time running back. Everyone had all this
right.
The Drake hype was real, and he just dudded, which was weird.
And then they got the Edmonds in there, right? So now he goes to another situation where again he's coming in. He's the second guy, but again he's going to cut into Jacobs, and it's not like Jacobs had 50, 60, 100 yards.
They did use Booker, who did cut into him as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
But that's what I'm saying. He got like 1,000. If Drake, and to me, I would think Drake's a little better than Booker. So he comes in, he had 1,000 something yards. If he cuts into that, then what are we looking at Jacobs then now? Like what is he really?
Both of them hitting like 800 yards. Like that would be like the worst case scenario if they both.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like that situation at all in Oakland. I put Jacobs even that high just because, honestly, I can't see them just giving up on him. It's not like he plays bad at all. Like he's not a bad running back. I don't get why Oakland does not like him.
Yep. And one guy that I'm higher on than Ricky, and that's Mike Davis. I think Mike Davis is set up in a good situation this season as being more than likely the lead running back for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Falcons also don't have Julio Jones this year, so it does give him the opportunity to really lead back. What we saw about Mike Davis last season is that not only can he catch, he can also run.
Right.
He had 6 touchdowns rushing, 642 yards, but he also caught 59 catches for 373 yards. So he offers the best of both worlds. He should be the lead back, almost a bell cow for the Falcons. Now, the Falcons offense isn't something that most people trust, but that is a really good situation for this guy.
But my only thing with him is you did see when he became the number one, you saw that greatness that you saw. You did see him run out of gas at the end of the season. So now you're telling me he's going to be number one, the cowbell. I got to see how, I got to see if he's going to be able to do that for the whole season or what's going to happen last year is where he ran out of gas. And at that point, we didn't even start Mike Davis towards the end or even the playoffs sometimes. You just didn't know what he was going to get.
But in the playoffs, he did come back and have that spark and was great.
He does.
So that's the one thing about him. And the one thing about Mike Davis that I can say that I'm really, really liking is that his price isn't that high, but he offers great upside. And if he does fizzle out, more than likely by that point in time, there's going to be someone on the waiver wire that you'll be able to pick up on and make a move on. So while Mike Davis does have his downsides, that's the reason why he's now ranked higher, like even like a Miles Sanders. I mean, who Miles Sanders injury prone is the only reason why he's there.
Yeah.
That's kind of just the same situation with Davis. So he offers a lot of upside. One player that we just mentioned, Edmonds, it could be Edmonds' season. Just because right now it's a toss up between him and Connor.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people trust Connor. Some people do, some people don't. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out. Edmonds also had opportunities last season to try to take over and he couldn't.
Right.
So we just have to see how it works out. He is a pass catcher, so this could be a sneaky value proposition just because he will catch so many passes. And that's the same way I feel about number 25, Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne, to me, he was a great fit for Urban Meyer. Knowing the way Meyer likes to play, he was even saying that he could use him in the slot. He's going to use him like a Percy Harvin. He's going to use him like a jack of all trades. And to me, that makes him very appealing in a fantasy aspect because these catches are gold. And if he's
Myers loves speed. He loves speed. So he did, you saw it in college. He loves speed.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they got him, I was like, all right. So they're going to be using him as almost like receiver type.
Yeah.
He's just coming at the back end and they're catching him. Again, that is the big thing. He's an explosive player. Where boom, in the second he could get you a 50, 60-yard TD run. Now we have to see, the rest of the team, Trevor Lawrence, reacts and what Myers is going to do exactly. But you can tell right away he loves speed. He's going to be coming out the backfield. He's going to be used as a wide receiver at times.
Yep. Kareem Hunt. I mean, there's a lot of good things about Kareem Hunt. He's a dynamic playmaker. He can get catches. He can run on the inside. He can run on the outside. The biggest questions with him is that there's Nick Chubb there. So it's kind of hard to judge volume. If there was no Nick Chubb, he would be much higher.
Yeah.
If Nick Chubb didn't have Hunt, he would be much higher. So they very much hurt each other's value. Both could be bell cow top 10 running backs if the other one didn't, come around.
Right.
But because of that, that's why we have Hunt ranked here at about 25. Once you get down to this point, just his sheer volume, potential makes him, solid. But then that upside of if Chubb goes out makes him like, okay, I'd rather take this risk over some other guys because his hit if Chubb is out is top 10.
I the same thing because I love Hunt, right? Even if they're both there, they get enough where they get both enough touches, TDs, where you have to put him in, Hunt, I believe in the top 25 or so. 26, 27, somewhere around there. Just on pure, even if Chubb is there. Now you take away, like you said, Chubb, and he skyrockets up. Him becoming the number one back. You saw it in Kansas City. Hey, that offense in Cleveland was running great. It's powerful. They could put up points. And again, if he becomes that number one running back in that offense, now like you said, he easily could be a 10, 12 type running back.
Next up, James Robinson. James Robinson was a really solid running back last season that a lot of people either got off to waiver wire or drafted at the end of their draft. And he was an insane return on investment. The biggest issue with him now is that Travis Etienne is there.
Yeah.
We don't know how that's going to work out. But the thing about Travis Etienne and James Robinson is that they could possibly coexist with each other since they can both catch passes and they both can run. So we don't know what kind of offense Urban Meyer is going to run yet.
Right.
And that's the reason why these guys are ranked so low.
Yeah.
But at the same point in time, they are kind of good values where if you can get them later in your draft and have them as like your RB2,
I would say
RB4, RB3, RB4,
right.
You'll be really shining. But I mean, when we talk about it, we're talking about, this is running back rank 24, 25.
Right.
So, by statistical standards, this is an RB2.
Yeah.
So, and that's,
I don't know if I could, I'll be honest, I would be worried if he was my RB2.
But that's also why you're going to be trying to draft some of these guys a lot earlier. You're trying to get two of these guys on your roster so this way you're not stuck in that position.
And this also kind of shows people that's why you go for that, 100% number one running back in those early picks.
Yeah.
Because when you start getting down to, the second round, you're already talking about splitting. You're already talking about, hey, can this guy, the backup overtake the number one?
When you look at a 12-team league, if everyone has two running backs, that makes Chase Edmonds an RB2. And these guys are just the start of flexes.
Right.
So this is something you have to keep in mind when you're drafting. This is something
100%.
you have to be cognizant about. Which running backs do you like? How much risk tolerance do you have? What type of systems do you want to roll with? Because a lot of this also comes down to who you enjoy. Because if you don't like a player, you're stuck with them. You're like, ugh. What happens? You cut them because you're so pissed off.
Yeah.
And now you messed up, and he starts doing good because you're not evaluating things properly. So that starts all before the draft. Know who you're drafting. If you're stuck driving an guy, you got to understand his value. And you have to sometimes bite the bullet and just keep him on your team until you could trade him.
Again, to me, the biggest thing just shows that when you have an early pick, you got to pick a running back.
Yeah.
You got to pick the elite running back. Don't mess around. Don't try to get cute.
And I could also understand the RB0 theory because guess what? With so many injuries and so many players changing up, maybe you want to get yourself an ETN and the Gaskins because you're loaded up at tight end and wide receiver. it really depends on how you're playing and what your strategy is. But that's a whole nother video that we're going to start breaking down for you. We actually go into the strategies of it.
Yeah.
Here we're really just ranking where these running backs are for the season.
And
So,
these are early rankings. I mean,
yep.
this is going
So
to
these
change.
things can definitely change.
100%.
One thing that we got to notice here, and I think when we say these things can really change, Mozart and Melvin Gordon III. Mozart's so injury prone that we don't know if he's even going to make it to opening day.
Yeah.
And with that being said, if they're going to get anyone else that might possibly take over as that lead running back, I'm pretty sure they signed or drafted a running back. So that definitely could be something that's scary. Melvin Gordon, there's already been reports that Javonte Williams could be the featured back going into the season, and that's already going to take away work from Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon could be seen as a third down option and short yardage situation guy, which would also hurt Javonte Williams' upside. But these are two guys over here in Denver that you're really going to have to watch out for and see and monitor, and those values are going to be changing depending on what happens.
I also believe in Melvin Gordon. One of the biggest things is how he starts off the season.
Yeah, but I don't even think that he's going to get a chance to be the starter.
The only reason I believe he will, it's the same people that drafted him. It's the same people that paid him $16 million, whatever it was.
Well, they didn't draft him.
Well, I mean, not draft him. With the same people that brought him over, same people that paid him
over. But remember, they drafted.
It's the same system that they had. Like
they drafted.
Nothing has really changed with.
Yeah, they drafted Williams though. That's the difference. And the coach speak that's coming out right now is that they're going to give Williams the opening reps, and he's going to be, the number one.
I have to see that first. They say a lot of things.
You're right. You're right. But I think we also saw it Melvin Gordon last season.
That's why I have a Gordon a little high, because it's the same people that got him there, same people, the same system. And, they're saying, hey, maybe
right now
this year with the quarterback.
Right now, for me, I don't have him, that much higher.
No. Yeah.
And that's going to be, and like I said, that's going to probably end up switching as camp continues. This is stuff we have to watch. Remember, we're in June right now when we're recording this. Right. So, by August, these things are going to start changing. We'll see. There's possible injuries that can happen. So that's all stuff to keep in mind. When we speak about possible injuries, it's the same situation that we're looking at with James Conner. He's an injury-prone guy, but he does offer a lot of upside. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. But he is very injury-prone.
If he can stay healthy, Conner's a good running back.
Yep. He's going to be
time with Edmonds. Health. We don't know what he's going to give us.
Right. And we just don't know what's going to happen when you're splitting times with Edmonds, because that can end up being a full-time share. Right. So, it's just a very scary situation just to see what's going on there. David Johnson over in Houston, they did recently get Phillip Lindsay, but I think at the end of the season, we really saw David Johnson start to break out of his shell. He had a couple of big games, including a huge Week 16. Absolutely devastating.
But they have it's too crowded over there. Don't they have Johnson, Lindsay? Who else? Don't they have another running back there?
Johnson, Lindsay.
And there's one more.
Lindsay signed up as the backup, but I don't really see any of them coming in and taking away from David Johnson. I see them being
too disarray there. No Watson. You have like three running backs. Lindsay could show that he could be a running back. Like,
Lindsay showed to me last season he was nothing.
No, but he's had a couple of years. He had a year, I think he was good. Yeah. My issue is just too crowded over there. It's too crowded over there. I don't like when you have that many running backs.
Yeah, but I do think that he could end up winning. And again, if we're talking about when we're in, the 31st running back overall, I want someone that could possibly be a bell cow or possibly be a lead back that has that big time play capability. And like I said, at the end of the season, including Week 16 when it counted, he was the number one guy and he played big. So he is someone that
I got to see more, especially Watson's not playing next year. You could hope all you want. He's not playing next year. So you're not going to have any Watson there, and that's going to just –
even if there's no Watson, that's insane volume. Like I said,
they're just going to stack up, Steve. They're not going to have to worry about Watson running
at the 31st running back. His volume is too much.
I get it, but it's going to be bad volume. He could get 20 carries and get 60 yards. Like, what was the point of that? I don't care about volume if he's not getting anything.
20 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown. That's RB2.
No, that's
60 yards and a touchdown. That's 12 points.
That's what you're hoping for. That to me is, I don't know. When you talk about volume, unless you're talking about volume receptions, volume
think about this, right? Okay.
When you're stacked up against
David Johnson last season scored 179 points, right?
Yeah,
179 points, and he was a top 25 running back, right? These are top 25 running backs. Right, so I think
this is with Watson. This is with Watson.
Right.
And you take Watson out, you have to tell me, you can't tell me they're staying the same. That is going to go down.
He could actually go up.
Uh,
Now he's gonna have more focus.
Watson was too much of a problem that the defense had to deal with. When
I
they don't have to
understand
deal
that,
with
but
him,
he's gonna get
they'll deal with David Johnson running the ball 20 times a game. Please, please give David Johnson the ball 20 times a game. We will sit here gladly stopping that than trying to stop Watson. It's a big difference. It's a big face.
So last season he scored, because he only played 12 games. He scored 14.9 points per game. That
Right. I don't know how that gets better without Watson. I don't know how that gets better with Watson without Watson.
I do see that he's gonna have an
I mean,
opportunity.
it's a different if you change receivers or something.
They
You're changing
finish,
them.
but
When
here,
you
but
change a
check this
franchise
out.
quarterback,
But see,
that's a big difference for the offense.
Understandable. But then let's check this out. Okay, so last season, right? They were 31st in rushing attempts with Watson. This means that there's going to be a lot more opportunity for him. Now they have Houston's crowded backfield, like you said. Lindsey, Ingram, Burkhead at C at some point. You know,
That's a
I do
lot,
think
man.
that it
So
is a
crowded
lot.
running back,
It is a
losing a
lot.
franchise quarterback, your whole team is in disarray, and you want Watson to do, you think Johnson's gonna do better. I'm not saying he can't. I have him low because I can't trust that he's going to do better.
And
I have
again,
more. I believe more that he
you're
can do
low
worse
on
than
him
get better.
is three picks.
No, yeah, it's not a huge thing,
so
but
so
I just have him there because he's technically the number one running back.
right. And again, remember, we're talking about this is the 31st running back being taken. So it's not like there's gonna be so many better options once you're this low. One other guy that we have to mention here is Fournette and Rojo. I think we both have Rojo over Fournette.
Yeah.
But you kind of have them ranked exactly the same because they both are going to get work. I think Fournette got more catches than we thought. Fournette was better in the playoffs. Rojo was better in the regular season. I don't know how they're going to split out carries. It could be a 50-50 timeshare.
I mean, Bruce Arians was saying that he's going to use them both like he did last year. They're going to split. They're going to be a combination. Yep. The only reason – that's why I have them both back-to-back because they're basically the same running back, right? They can basically get the same amount of points.
RB3. With each week, it could possibly be an RB2.
Exactly. Yeah, you really could. And the thing is, the only reason I have Fournette below Rojo is just because Fournette is more – has been more injury prone
as the primary team, like mostly last season. But again, Fournette's going to have his games. You're just going to have to, bite the bullet and deal with it.
And you can maybe have to play matchups where you think, hey, you know what? I'm going to put Rojo in, or I'm not going to put Rojo in, or hey, I'm going to sit Fournette. I'd rather put a tight end. You're going to have to mix and match with those guys.
Right. Damian Harris, running back for the Patriots. He offers some good upside, but it's so sticky over there. Any running back with Bill Belichick is sticky.
I'm with you on that.
Big with that.
I hate Patriots running back, but I do have him up just because he was really good when he got the ball. I mean, he carried the ball like 5 yards per per run, I think, or per catch. Like he was good. He just didn't get volume. He didn't get any volume at all. And that is the issue what you have now, where the problem you're going to have is your Cam Newton, got 12 touchdowns, right, rushing? Or, I mean, you're going to have a problem there in the red zone when he's not getting the ball. So that's the biggest thing with me. He doesn't get enough volume, but he was damn good last year. And with more volume, I mean, he's going to go up if that happens.
And then, I mean, the situation there, it's just who knows what they're gonna do. It's like a 3-card Monty trying to figure out the running back.
The first game he could come out with 180 yards, 3 touchdowns. Next game have 10 yards and just
he'll have 2 carries. Fuck 10 yards. It's like, why isn't Bill using him today?
No, I don't get that. He does that all the time where they have a great game the day before, the week before, and they come back with nothing.
Yep. So it'll be interesting really to see what Bill does. He's gonna have a whole fantasy football archive just on how painful it is trying to figure out the Bill Belichick running back. How many times the guy's gone with Rex Burkhead or James White or whoever, Sonny Michel.
They might just pick someone off the wire and just he's our starting running back now.
Bro, for real. People are drafting Sonny Michel like he's the guy. Next thing you know, Rex Burkhead. So this is why I grade Patriots running backs with ultra salt. Like they are like a bag of Lay's to me. They're super salty. One player though that we do have to mention again, Drake. I think his upside is decent, but it really depends on how they use them because he is a good runner. It is a situation where we don't know what's going to happen, but he could be goal line, and if he gets more passes, like Gruden is saying, he could be interesting. And then Carter over here with the Jets. Jets don't have a number one running back yet, and this rookie could be that guy. I don't think there's anyone on the roster that has set themselves
No,
up with that flag at that
he's the number
position.
one. As soon as they drafted, he automatically became the number one runner.
And I'm not going to lie to you. We have to see how that offensive line looks for the Jets, which could be pretty good. This kid could get enough volume to start vaulting himself up here.
Moving up,
He could start being last season's James Robinson if he is going to be that starting running back for the Jets.
and
Because,
he's explosive.
yeah, and one of the things that we have to remember with fantasy, it's not your talent that's king.
Yeah,
It's the volume. It's the volume, bro. I don't really care about how talented some of these guys are. Like, if we went by talent, Kareem Hunt should be so much higher up here, but it's not about talent. It's about
to me, like I said, I agree with you on volume, but to me, there's certain amounts. Like we were talking about David Johnson, he could get the ball 20 yards, he doesn't catch it, doesn't get any yards. It's to me, the volume won't matter there too much.
I mean,
you JD McKissick, things like that.
You could say that all you want, my friend, but I mean, if we look at it, 25, 20, what is this, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21. He was a 21 best running back last season. He was an RB2. You would tell me that you hated having him as an RB2. He was an RB2.
Without Watson, he could literally be. He'll definitely go down to RB3. He could definitely be an RB4 where it's just like, I can't start him.
I think he can end up doing what Melvin Gordon did last year.
No, I don't think him.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll do better.
I think he's going to get more volume. He's going to have more volume than he did last year.
He's old enough just to tell him to say, hey, we're going to start playing you as the main guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, again, he was ranked 21 last year. I think he could be close to the same this year if he gets the volume up. Because, again, volume is everything, man. Look, I don't break it down why volume is everything. J.D. McKissick, the backup running back, had 191 points. He was, when we look at his ranks, so if David Johnson was 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. J.D. McKissick was the 17th ranked running back. That puts him as
but I'm not going. But you keep going back to last year with the points. I get it, but it's a different situation.
You're right, but what I'm saying,
I can't really. When you're telling me this, I get. If you're telling me this is what's happening, and we're in the middle of the year, and this is what's happening, I get you. But now you're talking about not having Watson. That to me is because again, it's not just you lose it. When any team loses their quarterback, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
When you lose the main focus of your offense, the franchise quarterback, the best player on the field, man, that's a different story.
Man, I seen them boys when they were playing with Tyrod Taylor over in the Chargers get their runs in. I seen them guys with the Bills when they had Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback get their runs in. It's not like he's in the average.
Yeah, but to me, also Eckler is way better than David Johnson. I am
not saying no, but I am telling you this. There's more than likely a chance he's going to be an RB2. He's going to finish as a top 24 player.
I would say he's an RB3. We could check bookmark this then.
Yeah.
Come back to it.
Because I mean, scoring wise, like we see here, there's huge drop offs that we start seeing with points because points are king. And this is another guy that we have to factor in with Tampa Bay. We're talking about these guys. Is Giovanni Bernard's going to be there as a pass?
Well, I think he hurts more Fournette because he's more of a catcher.
Well, Fournette really isn't the catching guy. You would say Rojo would be more of the catching guy. Fournette would be more of the goal line guy.
Nah.
So like that's where it's scary because Fournette. I mean, if we look at it, Fournette had 36 catches. Where is? Can we just go by teams? We'll go by. Where team is that? Tampa Bay. There we go. All right. So Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette had 42 targets to 47 targets, 36 catches to 38 targets. You know,
I thought
Fournette has 6 touchdowns with 97 attempts and 367 yards, and then Jones has 7 touchdowns with 97. So you see Fournette being used really more as the goal line guy. And I think these catches that you'll see here will kind of cut off of both of them, which just might make all of them almost unstartable. Because if you're seeing Fournette really start getting that goal line work, and Jones is only getting the big play run, the big run touchdowns, that's going to really hurt him because I know he had a couple of big run touchdowns. Jones,
Yeah,
that's
he had
where he
like
got
one for
most
like
of it.
90 yards.
Yeah, so that's what scares me a lot about this
But that is a
situation.
big difference in rushing yardage.
Yeah, because look at it, he had 100 more attempts.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're going to really see. He's going to get that rushing yardage. They'll split near the goal line. Catching wise, you'll see Gio probably be the lead catcher, and then
Yeah.
these guys will sprinkle in.
That's why I said I cut for it, because I remember Fournette getting more catches, but Giovanni's going to cut into that catching. That's the reason Giovanni's just a pain, to be honest with you.
He's gonna. It's almost gonna make the point of all three of them being unstartable. Where
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Gio makes it where you can't start them all. You can't start any of them.
Yep. And then I will pose the question to Ricky, and I'll be like, Ricky, who would you rather have? One of those running backs in Tampa Bay or David Johnson? And we'll have a wonderful, glorious statistical debate where I show you all the ways David Johnson is outscoring each one of those guys. It won't be a lot, but he'll barely.
I probably.
I think
it depends who I have, because I'll put it this way: I don't want any of those guys on my running back 2 quarterback. I don't want David Johnson on RB2. If David Johnson
is in RB3 territory.
So if David Johnson was an RB3,
I probably same thing is Rojo, Fournette. All these guys are ranked at 32, 33. So you're in the middle of your RB3 ranks here.
I'll be honest with you. If this is here and I'm going to look behind, I might reach for someone else and just.
Well, I think this is why a guy like Carter that we're talking about has the potential to be that next guy, because I think we're all looking at Carter like, I like his upside more than pretty much everyone here until we get like here. Like Carter's upside is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Same thing with Javonte. Javonte Williams is a little bit more capped because of Melvin Gordon.
Like I said, I would probably start looking somewhere else.
I mean, I guess once you're here, you're looking somewhere else. Which backup do you want to get because he's going to become the new lead? That's the thing about running backs.
You'll be honest. You're right. Carter will probably be a sexy pick to reach and just say, hey, you know what? This is
like you would take him over those guys, but he's pretty much setting himself.
But you know what? We're going to go with this. I'm going to go that I will choose Rojo over Johnson. Let's see how they do for the year.
Yeah, we'll see. That'll be a good little bet.
Because you only gave me those options. Forget that I would probably go a different route, but I'll pick for this question. I'll pick Rojo over Johnson.
Oof. It'll be interesting. I definitely will bring it back if I'm right. If I'm wrong, you'll never hear about it.
If you're wrong, we're bringing it back then.
You'll never hear about this again.
Yeah. Next thing you know, David Johnson who?
He's alive. But on that note, people, we hope that these rankings give you some idea of what's going on. We hope that we can get you set up for the season. As the season goes on, we'll update them, and we'll really be speaking more about guys that are changing in our rankings and players and things that we notice. So, like, if we do hear that Carter is really starting to look like that guy, we'll move him up and we'll start telling you about that. If we start hearing that Travis Etienne is not looking that good and James Robinson is setting himself up to be the lead back to start the season, we'll let you know. If it's a situation where J.K. Dobbins is like, damn, this dude is making all these pass catches, he might be the pass catching back there, we could be like, hey, this is his path to, RB2, value, solid mid RB2, and that'd be a big lift for him. But these are the questions that we're going to be, examining and following for you throughout the season. And we're going to bring you the information so you can make the decisions that you guys need to make. But we're going to be getting information for you. We're going to be out there gathering and hunting, and we'll bring it all back to you.
And they got to take this first rankings is really off news articles, what you saw in college with some of these guys, what you saw last year, what are they saying, what are the coaches saying. So it's a lot of, hearsay, it's a lot of rumors, and it's a lot of past stuff that had happened in before seasons before. So it's just beginning. This is just getting started. Once they really start going to training camp, once you see Hard Knocks on HBO, man, we really start getting closer, right? So again, these are definitely going to change throughout the whole summer, month by week, month by month. It's going to change throughout the whole time.
And one thing that will also change is this little mullet thing that I have will be gone too. So
you look like Joe Dirt.
All right, people. So on that note, we're out of here. That is Ricky. I am the talented Mr. Taco, or TDS Taco, as we like to call us around here. And on that note, we're out. So peace.
Take care.
Hey, David and Taco, they bring the heat. All about UFC, way more than a fantasy. Let's see who going toe to toe. Throw down on the mat. Check the replay, run it back. We gotta check the stats. Hey, do this every day. We ain't come to play. This is sports talk, and we love talking MMA. Everything fantasy sports. Dopest show that I know. With Electric Dave and talented Mr. Taco. Let's go. Hey, G.